Hey everybody, it's Jay and Eric, and we are back from NJMP, which was really a great race. It was a full race. We had a lot of fun.
Now, hella sweet right off the bat is Zero Energy Racing. Now, they race a Honda del Sol, and we'll get to that in a second, but more importantly, they hosted the potluck at this race, which had a band, a parade of freaks, about 100 pounds of pork, and it was just the greatest thing we've had in a long time. The only thing they overcooked was the Del Sol's engine. It ended the weekend in pieces.
Now, this weekend was the same weekend as the 24 Hours of Le Mans, utterly unplanned. And our green flag, exact same time as their green flag, also utterly unplanned. Guess how that turned out? That is virtually identical.
On the subject of real racing, the cheat strong AMC Hornet led the race overall for a not insignificant period of time. They were crushing Class B. It looked like they might win the whole race outright until an alternator bolt backed out and broke a bracket. Now, people were absolutely floored by how fast this car was and how much quicker it was around the track than their BMW, and they kept saying, "What's your secret?" And the secret? A Jeep 4-liter engine. Now, if you've ever whined about needing more engine in your BMW, A, of course you have, and B, you should feel bad, and of course, C, put a Jeep engine in.
I would point out, in fact, this was a totally stock Jeep engine. Now, but terrible 4.0, they also brought a totally stock Jeep engine, which has run okay for a couple of races. Completely exploded this time, and you know what? I don't think it was stock. I think they were lying to us.
eBay Motors is, of course, our presenting sponsor, and at this race, they brought us 3 YouTubers of note. B is for Build, Rich Rebuilds, and Chris Fix, who was here last year. We will start talking about B is for Build with their Mercedes CLK 320, $500 my ass. Now, B is for Build, Tavarish, Jared Pink, all YouTubers in their own right. They all chipped in to build this repo-grade Mercedes and kind of used old trash cans and whatever they could find to make it look like a CLK GTR. Looks really great. Kind of ran all right. Well done.
Yeah, so Chris Fix did return with his E46 X-Drive YU 500 Classic Rune, and this time they didn't blow up. That thing actually ran pretty well, and it was pretty fast. Unfortunately, also in the paddock, we had a little bit of a come-to-Jesus period. Other than that, those guys were great.
Not YouTubers are Barf Motorsports and their Ford Focus. We mention them because they did a great Chris Fix parody as Pete Cheat, starring team captain Pete Adams. Chris Fix thought it was hilarious. We did too. That is a great theme. Hella sweet.
Hella sweet. We had some great team names. I always love Turtle Eclipse of the Heart, who comes with their own theme song, of course.
And I wanna race forever. And if you only shift me right.
We had Subi Go Burr, a Subaru Outback full of rookies, following the great contemporary meme.
And the very best team name of the event was Team I'm Too Busy to Work on the Team car, but I found time to race someone else's car because I'm a douche with a 100K Porsche and a $75,000 Miata.
Rookies Team 425 Racing had what was basically like a My First Lemons car with their Toyota Corolla. It was awesome. They had a great attitude. They were so happy just to be there.
Kind of similarly, Car 616, Garage Heroes in Training, they're a veteran team, but everything in the engine bay was labeled in case somebody needed it, which I thought was a little condescending, but you know, whatever. And it was also a Chrissy's Mom's Cookies theme, because Chrissy's mom always makes cookies, now she's driving. Also a little condescending, but they had a good time.
The Garage Heroes noticed, by the way, mid-Sunday that their cookie had disappeared, and as it turns out, it had been stolen by another team. The Rookie Monster theme. Who else would steal it but a Cookie Monster themed car run by a bunch of rookies and Judge Manny and Judge Chris. One of the best inside jokes we've seen in Lemons in a long time. Really well done.
Speaking of inside jokes, Sputnik was back, this time with an Isuzu Impulse. I mean, this was, it wasn't classic Sputnik. On the one hand, Sasha was running around and the car was always 10 minutes late for tech and all of that sort of stuff. And ultimately the drive shaft fell out. So that was very Sputnik. On the other hand, they did get the car to run. It was a pretty good car. It seemed to run pretty well. It looked very safe. And Sasha didn't cut anybody's hands off. So, it was a good showing for Sputnik.
Lots of great veterans back, including the Space Pants Ford Thunderbird.
When I say space pants, you say, are intergalactic space pants.
Cheese Bowl Enterprises with their Ford Focus. They were back to their handing out trophies gag.
Bad Idea Racing had their IKEA-themed Volvo with IKEA furniture on the roof again this year, and they added a dummy for effect. That was hella sweet.
Valve Tap Racing with their Cordova.
Neighborinos were back with their Geo Prism. This had previously been a Ned Flanders Geo theme.
Come on, Ned, move this thing.
I can't! It's a Geo!
Now, you crap can connoisseurs will know that a Geo Prism is the same as a Toyota Corolla. The Corolla Gazoo Racing Edition had just come out, so they did what anybody in that situation would do. They made a Geo Prism GR, where GR stands for Geo Racing. There's some layers to it, still pretty awesome.
Tom Tully's Buick, the Cadillac-powered 37 Buick, that was back. It ran like crap, but Tom and his daughter Amanda did recreate Amanda's 6th grade school photo, so that was pretty cool.
Hella sweet, we had 2 Dodge Omnis at the same event for the second time this year. That's never happened, and it's somehow a different pair of Dodge Omnis. That means that right now we have 3 Dodge Omnis and a Plymouth Horizon Racing Lemons. We have pretty much made it at this point. Of these 2 cars, the BRF Omni won Class C, and the Iacocca's Revenge Real Dodge Omni GLH YU Ruin Classic ran 14.4 hours out of a 14.5 hour race, which is pretty good.
Hella sweet, Sir Jackie Stewart's Coin Purse. This is the new name and theme of the longtime Run EXP Ford EXP, which is really an awesome theme that they had. They wanted to go a little bit different, and they spent all of their time trying to wire in an even more bumping sound system rather than working on things like, replacing the clicking CV joints and stuff like that. So they had every mechanical problem you could have, including the new sound system, shorted out and caught everything on fire, but their hearts were in the right place.
In the realm of mid-1980s Fords, the Little Lebowski Urban Achiever Ford Tempo was there with a manual swap out of a Ford EXP, as one does. Now, they also had taken the crappy fuel injection and reverted back to a carburetor, and all that did was leak fuel, much in the same way that the EXP wouldn't run. They kind of tried to fix it, it really didn't work, and it turns out that the real problem was that the 30-year-old fuel filter was completely clogged with God knows what. Oops, I guess. They finished the race kind of. It'll do better, maybe, next time? It's worth noting that these were both vaguely Jackie Stewart themed cars, and they both raced on Jackie Stewart's birthday, and both teams completely missed it.
Disappointments can lead to other things.
Jackie Stewart evaluates Ford Tempo.
Rubbish.
Moving on to But Terrible, team far from winning, of course. Poor Tom Lamino makes this list yet again. He thought he had solved all of his problems way back when dumping his 4-cylinder Fox for a 5-cylinder big Volkswagen. Well, that worked out great this time. He finished 25th overall. He finished 25 laps. Yeah, that sounds better.
Kinda hell sweet, kinda butt terrible SBD Racing and their Dodge Neon. They swapped a head gasket during the weekend, which normally not a big deal, but these guys really don't know which end of a wrench goes on a bolt, so that was kind of impressive. Now, it turns out last year they had blown up the single cam stock engine in these, which I had told them was a good engine, and somebody happened along during the weekend and said, hey, you know what this thing needs? Needs a PT Cruiser motor. They got a PT Cruiser motor after that, found out somehow how to shove it in there, and then blew the head gasket on it. Fixed it with a little bit of help from somebody walking by. Kinda well done, kinda not. Maybe a PT Cruiser swap wasn't the answer.
Now, but what was the answer? Gription Motorsports with their Lexus IS300 touring sedan. They did a automatic to manual swap overnight, totally worked. Brilliant.
But terrible, the folly from Mount Holly and their Dodge Charger. It speaks for itself.
But terrible and hella sweet, the Frankenvet back again. Needless to say, they blew up their supercharged 3800. It's okay, they had a spare motor out of some Pontiac GXP or something, the one with the red cylinder head covers on it, Let me just tell you, that is a red flag to a bull. Anytime you're in pick and pull and you're pulling out a motor with red valve covers, it has been thrashed to within an inch of its life. You're going to bolt it in, it's going to last like 20 minutes. That's exactly what happened again. So these poor guys, they've got everything kludged together on this car. So much so, on their team t-shirts on the back is the parts interchange manual. Like the clutch is from a 1988 Ford Tempo. So that way they can go into the parts store and say, I need wait a minute, hold on, I need a clutch for a 1988 Ford Tempo. These guys are genius. Eric, did they finish?
Yes? Let's say yes.
Okay, let's say yes. Love these guys, or don't want to be them.
That brings us to our trophy winners, and for the 3 YouTubers, we gave out a special YouTube Master Clickbaiters class. We didn't really specify what the qualifications for winning were, so we gave it to Rich Rebuilds and his team, which is named The Lemon Party?
Yeah, don't know why.
No, I don't know anything about that. Lemon... Ah! Rich Rebuilds bought a previously raced, or maybe just previously prepped, Volkswagen Jetta with a VR6. Now, they had, of the 3 YouTubers, the most authentic 24 Hours of Lemons experience. They showed up with the car not remotely finished. They got some help from everybody with 2 hands around. They managed to barely get it running in time for the checkered flag on Saturday, and then they spent the rest of the weekend wondering why their fuel filter was full of garbage. For all of that, for wrenching the whole time, for running a grand total of 16 laps, we figured that they were the YouTube Master Clickbaiters for getting the most out of the least amount of laps, as far as clicks go.
Road Mangler Cup was the C-Team Honda Civic. Actually, these guys entered a Dodge Daytona, and this thing set a blistering lap in Friday testing. I don't recommend Friday testing, by the way. Your Lemons car, it's only got a certain number of laps in it. Why would you use them up before the race? That's ridiculous. Well, they use it for, 2 minutes, completely exploded their car. They said, okay, we'll just rent a car. The guy next to him's driving an Omni GLH, so clearly he's smart. He drove his Honda Civic Lemons car to the track from Michigan to be on this GLH team. They rented his Honda Lemons car, road car, drove the wheels off of it, broke the subframe out of the car that the guy had to drive home to Michigan Sunday night. I don't know how that resolved, but hey, at least they got some free tires out of the deal. Did they give it to the guy whose car they broke? We don't know. We left.
Heroic Fix went to Wrong Way Racing in their M&M themed Mazda Miata. This was a new, kind of clean looking Miata that we gave a couple laps to because we thought, man, this thing's pretty clean. Turns out, not so much. The team captain killed the motor after about 20 minutes, as team captains are wont to do, and set off to go find a replacement engine somewhere far away, several hours drive. Meanwhile, his teammates kind of just sauntered around the paddock, found the car that finished 5th place, who had a Miata motor sitting around, said, could we have that? And the guy said, yeah, sure, take it. That probably took some money, whatever, doesn't matter. They started swapping in the motor and had it mostly done before the team captain came back. Still, they spent another roughly 24 hours getting it buttoned up. Finally took the track about 10 minutes before the checkered flag. Heroically done.
I got screwed, went to the IS 300 of Team My Wife Said I Could Do This. This was a huge entourage. I think they had 8 drivers. They had a bunch of crew. They had all kinds of hangers on. They were all dressed head to toe in leopard print, which I thought was pretty good. Why? Because their theme was the Leopard Exus.
Leopard?
Nah, I'm not doing this. Again, why are you doing test days? They went out on test day. 3 laps later, blew this motor sky high. They said, wait a minute, not a problem. It's just a Toyota. We're going to go get the exact same motor out of a Camry. Piece of cake. They got a motor out of a Camry. and in a very General Motors-y sort of twist, you know what? It's the exact same motor, but it isn't. And it took them about 48 hours to figure out how to get this junkyard Toyota motor into their Lexus. They did finally, but by then it was Sunday, and I gotta say, a lot of the appeal of the Leopard X's had worn off for them.
The regional trophy was the Gauges Pointing Up trophy, and if you've ever spent any time around our beloved Dale Strimple, you know the story already, but let's get into it. So Glue Sticks are a team that's been around Lemons for a long time. They've always had the same theme, which is an Elmer's glue stick. Pretty good, but Dale told them on like race number 20, hey man, your theme's gotten stale, probably get a new one. So what did they do? They looked right at Dale and the light bulb went off. Now, as it turns out, a really good theme does not need to be complicated to be utterly spectacular. This is one of the best themes we've ever seen, and you are all kicking yourselves for not thinking of it first. Now, we called it the Gauges Pointing Up trophy because, as we said, Dale has told this story a million times. If you want to hear the Gauges Pointing Up story, it will be at the end of the video.
Judge's choice was Crocs Racing. They took their Toyota Celica of the rounded suppository era. What was that, mid-80s, I guess? Said, you know, that looked like a Croc. Made a giant heel strap. That was hilarious. And then they promptly blew the car up and nobody ever saw them again.
Organizer's choice, Hopes and Dreams Racing, a Subaru Impreza. The name describes Subaru Imprezas that have all raced in Lemons. They went full Real Housewives of New Jersey and dressed up in drag. The car is horrible. The theme was disturbing. It is kind of the right combination for Lemons.
The eBay Motors Halloween Meets Gasoline Trophy slam dunk. I mean, there was never any question. It was Three Pedal Mafia and their Blazing Saddles theme. I don't know why we haven't had a Blazing Saddles theme before. It was genius. So the sheriff was a real racer. Mongo is just gear in transmission of life. Brilliant. The preacher was reading from the good book, which in this case was an oversized SCCA rule book. They had the little toll booth arm that came down in the middle of nowhere and required people to get a, quote, shitload of dimes. They worked this really hard and it was fantastic.
That brings us to the Index of Affluency, which was won by El Chupacabra and their Ford Fiesta. These guys have beaten on this thing mercilessly, and it's kind of hard to overstate how terrible these cars are. They were designed by Gia. They were designed by Giugiaro. They were designed by some guy named Trevor Erskine in a shed somewhere in England. Powered by an engine that the British love for racing, which means tractor engine, and built in Germany out of surplus World War II destroyed steel. They have emptied the speed parts catalog at this Fiesta, which is to say it's roughly mid-1960s technology, and with a homemade bike carb setup, it probably makes about 60 horsepower. They finished 49th out of 132 cars. That's hella sweet, well done, and here is Lemons in a nutshell.
That's too much to worry about.
Lord, please let these BMWs be smited.
Help that racer?
He gonna do it. He's serious. I'll torque his nuts right off. He's serious. Help! 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 The Arrive and Drive will be here soon. Did you wish Dale a happy birthday? Happy birthday, Dale. Happy birthday, Dale. Happy birthday to you. Thank you. Let us read. The use of any oil pan, sump, or oil pumps and its pickup is permitted.
I've been asked to explain the story of Needles Up. This is how it goes. I was racing a Volkswagen Rabbit and my crew chief Ron was installing the gauges, and I asked Ron if he could turn all the gauges so that the needles were straight up when the car was running fine, so I could just glance across and see the needles were straight up. And my crew chief, I offended him in a way, and he said, "You mean like this?" "Yes, Ron, I'm a driver," and I politely walked away. Well, during the event, our radio went out, CB radio, quite frankly, because we were Rubber Chicken Racing Team Cheap. And they held up a sign saying, "Radio out." And I didn't know what to do, so I gave them the needles are straight up, that the car was running fine. And then Ron and the whole crew flipped me off from the pit lane, and that became kind of the needles straight up deal. Well, the chief steward saw us all flipping each other off, and he came running down, wanted to know we were flipping the bird to everybody, and he says, no, it's a good thing, it's a sign of affection. It's a wonderful thing when the needles are straight up. Needles straight up, folks. It's a good thing.